Just because it's digital, it doesn't mean it's green and clean. Yes, our websites have weight too and contribute to climate change. I know it might feel like a drop in the ocean to be talking about the carbon footprint of our websites, but those megabytes do add up and our websites are getting bulkier. And the good news is that if you do a bit of work in making your website a bit more greener, you will usually end up with a website that's faster and more people-friendly too, which tends to be good for business as well. So how do you begin? Let's start with the most obvious one: images. Images and other media assets are probably the largest files on your website, and just because it's easy to upload a ton of images, it doesn't mean you should. You can do a lot by being mindful in choosing the images that really help to reinforce the message of your website or show the product in the best way. If you're using an image just for a thumbnail, it shouldn't be several megabytes large. Think about whether you really need an image on a page, and there's a ton of great tools you can use to reduce the size, compress images, use scalable graphics, lazy loading, the WebP format, and other things. The concrete approaches you'll take will depend on the tools you use for building the website. If you use WordPress, there's a ton of great plugins that can help with image optimization and make your website faster. Next up is code optimization. Again, this will depend on the tools you use. If you write your own code, you know that it's a good practice to revisit and refactor your code once in a while. This will also make your website faster and help with maintainability. If you use WordPress, be sure to regularly update your WordPress and all your plugins. And it's also good practice to revisit the plugins you're using. Delete any plugins that are not really doing a lot, or even plugins that you're not using at all. And look, WordPress plugins are amazing, but most websites could probably do with fewer of them, which improves speed, security, and luckily also reduces the carbon footprint. Like I said, being greener and leaner usually has multiple benefits. And finally, the biggest, but sometimes a bit tricky one: switching to a green hosting provider that uses renewable energy to run their web servers. You can visit the Green Webs Foundation directory to find over 400 providers around the world that use renewable energy. The big cloud providers like AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud, which is also what you rely on if you build your website in Squarespace, have commitments to be running 100% on renewables by 2025, and Amazon, Microsoft, and Google are all aiming to reach net zero by 2030 or 40, but they do rely on carbon offsets as well. It really depends on what your needs are. If you have a local website and want to support a local business, finding a local green provider can be a great option. A handy little tool to bookmark is the Website Carbon Calculator built by Wholegrain Digital, where you can type in the address of your website and get an estimate of your carbon footprint, plus some practical tips on how to reduce your impact. And there is a ton of other great resources on green web development, like this action guide from ClimateAction.Tech that can help you get started. I hope this inspires you to do a bit of green cleaning on your websites. And be sure to leave your favorite tips for reducing the carbon footprint of your websites in the comments.